All right, welcome to our last module of Thinking with a Pencil. So by now we have practiced a lot with visualizing basic geometry, rectangular prisms and cylinders, and we have combined them. Then we have like representing different types of pictorials in the isometric grid, in the orthographic grid, and then we got out of the grid and started using perspective and still using these construction boxes. And I like to think about construction boxes for everything that I do in sketching always will fit inside a space. So right here, I wanted to talk to you about the different things that you can do by using these principles of sketching to create more elaborate concepts, and how you get to this idea of concept design, like for example what you see on the book that I showed you of sketching, where you're coming up with actual concepts while you're you have certain needs, but then you can use sketching as a way of prototyping your ideas. And this is, at this level, this is what I would like you to do, is to be able to at least have the tools to get started. And the way that we get to that is by doing rapid visualizations and putting things on boxes and creating feasible boxes that you can use to represent. So, you can start off from a orthographic sketch, and like as you can see here on the slides, turn that object into a two-point perspective. We have the vanishing points, A and B, and you can build up that shape. You can come up with like other types of objects, curves, cylinders, and so on. Now, in reality, when you're sketching, you're not always connecting everything to the vanishing point, but you will have, like in this box, a notion of where your vanishing points are. Like if it seems that the lines will converge, your brain will create a feasible 3D object out of your sketch. So for example, I'm not going to use vanishing points at all for making this rectangular prism, but I will use the concepts of perspective to make it look as if it was in a slant. So I have created this line, and then I'm going to create another line right here. And I want you to observe the different relationships of angles that I'm creating. I'm creating this one here and this one here. That suggests that these two will converge somewhere outside of the paper. That's okay. It doesn't have to be inside the paper, but at least the notion that these two will converge at some point will create a feasible perspective. So we do an analysis and we create planes that are feasible. So right now here, I create another plane, and I also add an effect of perspective, although I'm not really keeping track of my vanishing points. And yeah, I mean, arguably you could say, well, if these two will not converge in the horizon, that would mean that the object is a little bit rotated. I don't know. Brain is a wonderful machine, and it constructs 3D objects quite easily. So there's a lot of leeway for interpretation. I remember that verticals are my two-point perspective. That's the low-hanging fruit. And yes, there is three-point perspective where also these lines will be converging to a point. But that's a more extreme perspective that you would only use like to create like comics, for example, when you want like very dramatic views. For the purposes of creating and visualizing and communicating, we're actually just going to be using the two-point perspective. Right here, I'm just winging this box. With the concepts of perspective in my head, I'm just winging it. I know that I can make a feasible box, keeping in mind that these lines should converge. And I want you to kind of keep in mind those basics and look at your box that you have just created. If it looks off, it's probably off. Or if you show it to a friend and they see and it seems off, then it's off. You know, you gotta trust your gut, and if it's off, then you gotta fix it. You gotta figure out these angles. Which one of these angles is wrong? What's wrong about my drawing? And this is an important part of sketching, is the self-assessment of how are we doing. Okay, so I got this box right here. And as the video was showing, like, do you want to add a cylinder? You can break down this box, and this is what we call freehand perspective. Like, I can break it down into parts and start really going crazy. And for example, here I add a curve. I'm just freehanding some sort of object. And I'm really getting into this state of flow where I have a construction box, but now after I have the construction box, I can be a lot more freehand and reach that state of flow I was telling you about. So this is like some sort of object. I don't know. It could be whatever you want. It could be a pipe. I'm just practicing doing something random, something cylindrical. Just showing you a little bit, very similar to what this guy was doing on the video to create that video camera. You know, I'm doing the same process, just trying to like go through with my own flow and creating some sort of like 3D object. But now, what I want you to do is to come up with concept design, okay? And concept design is a lot of fun. What I want you to do is take a look at the slide, and on the two sides there is fruits and vegetables, and on the other side there's things, okay? So what I want you to do is to combine these two and turn these two concepts into an object, okay? So for example, I'm gonna connect the shoes with carrot, okay? So the carrot shoes. So I'm gonna use my sketching techniques that I have just shown you to draw a carrot, but it's also gonna be a shoe. So yeah, this is pretty ridiculous, but it's fun because it's a sketching and it's an exercise. So this is gonna be your next assignment. It's like to do something very, very ridiculous and funny. I want you to have fun with this and work with the person next to you. So for example, here I'm gonna make the carrot, and I'm making a box, arguably in perspective, in perfect perspective. It doesn't matter. It should just look feasible. It just needs to look somewhat realistic. So I'm going to draw the foundation for the carrot right here. The carrot is a little bit like a cone. It's like right there. I'm just doing very light construction lines. I'm not afraid of drawing lines on the paper. I'm drawing everything with very light lines, and then I can revise it. Okay, so that's the carrot. The basic geometry of the carrot. Now I'm going to make a hole so I can put my feet in. And this is the fun part of visualizing, is that to see how these ideas really start coming into reality only when you're drawing them. How does it look like? What are going to be the most salient features? And so on. So the first one here is kind of coming together, and I want you to take the time to work on this idea. You might make many sketches. It doesn't have to be just one. I want you to kind of like go through like different levels of sketching. And I want to show you here some that students made. This one is a concept that was, our second concept was a package for a pineapple. Look at that. Pineapple package. I want you to stick with the concepts that I was talking about, like telephone, watermelon, helmet, or whatever. But this is an example of concept design. So this is, for example, a package. How would you package a pineapple? And you can see how all people did not just do one sketch. When you're sketching ideas, you're not supposed to be just doing one thing. You're making decisions, you're coming up with ideas and prototyping them, and this is the most fun part of working sketching. This is all pineapple containers. And the same concept could have so many different shapes. So I'm showing you here some really nice examples of the different styles that you can have. So this last assignment consists of taking these two concepts, and I want you to fill up the whole page with ideas. I want you to think and create using that concepts that you have decided. For example, here, this one is the carrot shoe. But I'm not just going to stay with this sole representation. I'm going to try to explore other ways. So I want you to fill up the whole page with ideas, okay? So this is going to be it for the sketching module. Again, I can't teach you sketching. This is something that you have to teach yourself. You have to do the assignments. You have to go through the process. I can't teach your brain to learn the motions that you need to learn to be able to do a straight line. So hopefully this 3-week module is going to help you to communicate your ideas visually. But again, this is something that you should continue practicing because it's really a lot of fun. All right, that's going to be for me. I'm going to go back. So also going to be working also in some of my digital paintings. So I'm going to use my stylus here. So peace, and I'll see you hopefully sometime soon. Thank you.